Welcome to Food Talk for Health, because you really are what you eat. Here is your host, Tonia King.
Today on Food Talk for Health, my guest is CEO Nick Gillitt from the Osmolality Lab. How are you today?
I am good. Thank you very much.
Today we're talking about how important it is to stay hydrated and I guess not let ourselves get into that dangerous part of things with extreme heat waves that so many people are experiencing, correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, staying hydrated is hard enough, but getting back from being dehydrated is really important.
Tell me a little bit about what your lab does or what you do.
So yeah, the Osmolality Lab actually measures osmolality in consumer products. Sometimes people have heard about it in connection with blood and urine and stuff. This is about consumer products. Consumer products have an osmolality value, and we're able to measure that accurately.
Is it really hard to do?
No, it's quite a simple technique. It's based on either freezing point or vapor pressure with a simple instrument, but it's not something that people generally know that much about. Osmolality is a physical measure of a characteristic of a liquid. And as you know, the body is 60% water, higher in some cases. So it has its own osmolality. So when you're putting liquids into your body, the great situation to be in is when the osmolality of the beverage or the liquid is the same or close to as the osmolality of the body. Then you get efficient water transfer. The issues become when they're not.
There are so many different things on the market now that say if you pour this little powder into your water, you'll be totally hydrated and feel really good. Does it really work?
So the short answer is yes, it works. The longer answer is maybe not all of them do, because you need an osmolality within a certain range. And sometimes these products are too high and sometimes they're too low. As a reference point, really, remember water, which has nothing in it, has an osmolality of 0.
It's interesting because it seems like there's a whole big marketing thing now with all these different products that claim to get your hydration up to the point where it should be.
Yeah, it's a very crowded marketplace as well. And I think, we draw the distinction between staying hydrated if you're already hydrated, in which case water is a great option, of course. But if you end up in that dehydrated state, maybe you've been exercising or it's a really hot day, there are better options than water to get you hydrated again quickly.
Like what?
So anything that's osmolality appropriate. Like I said, osmolality is a physical attribute of the liquid, and you get it by having things in the liquid, like electrolytes, carbohydrates, etc. So having something that's got a few of those things in it compared to water alone makes it a best-in-class option.
I remember reading somewhere that the smart water, so to speak, with the electrolytes in it, really doesn't do what it's supposed to do. We're hoping that because it says it has electrolytes in it, that it does.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Electrolytes are an interesting thing, you see, because this might sound counterintuitive to people, but most people don't actually need the electrolytes for the electrolytes. The body's really good at conserving electrolytes. It's only these sort of super marathon runners and things like that sweat enough out where you actually need them. But where you do need them is to be dissolved in the water so they create the right osmolality so that when you drink that water, then you become hydrated quickly. So some of these products have the right amount of electrolytes in, and some of these products don't. And so some are better at hydrating you than others.
But the average person really doesn't know.
No, they don't. And it's really hard to tell. I mean, you can look at the label and read the label, but how are you supposed to know what kind of translates into osmolality from electrolyte content or carbohydrate content? That's why our lab exists. We're trying to create this certification program so people can see very quickly whether that beverage qualifies or that one doesn't.
So are you reaching out to different products, requesting to test them?
We've already tested everybody.
Oh, you have?
We know who counts and who doesn't. And what we like to do is reach out to folks and indicate to them whether they're in range, right, already. And then there's a couple out there on the market that carry our certification, which they already exist. But it's not difficult to get in range if you're just above or just below. It could be as simple as pouring that hydration packet you talked about into a smaller volume of water or into a larger volume of water to get that balance.
That's really interesting. And I'm sure you don't want to talk about the different brands that meet those requirements.
Right. And we'd like to make our certification program an industry standard, right? So you can tell across the board which ones qualify and which ones don't. So all we're interested in really from the consumer's perspective is that they can tell that easily. Because if you're going to spend your hard-earned money on something that you think or you're told is going to do something, you kind of want it to do it, right?
Right. So when you say you've tested a lot of different products out there, do you have a stamp of approval that shows up on these bottles or cans?
So yeah, that's what our company can do. If we reach out to a particular manufacturer and we know that they qualify, their osmolality measurement is it within the range that the World Health Organization and UNICEF actually recommend, then we can say to them, you can join our certification program. You can put our logo on your packaging, and then a consumer who happens to be walking down this very crowded aisle can see easily whether that's happened or not.
I think that's great. It's almost like third-party testing for vitamins.
Exactly. And I think in the world today, most people are starting to realize that proof is really good, and they might as well be able to see it easily.
These days, with so many heat waves going on in so many different places, I think a lot of people are getting dehydrated. They're not thinking about keeping their bodies where they should be.
That's exactly right. It's the heat, which is probably not going to change in the near future. We're going to continue to get hotter. But think about people, for example, line workers and firefighters who are in these hot environments wearing heavy gear and are being told to be hydrated all the time. You'd think those guys would need the right solution at hand, right? So why not give it to them by allowing them to choose which ones work and which ones don't?
Where can we find out more information, Nick?
You can go to the osmolalitylab.com. We've got a lovely set of blogs and informational pieces on there where people can learn about it. There's also a list on there of folks that qualify.
Oh, that's great. That's a nice little thing to tap into as we're trying to stay hydrated in these times of great heat. I'm talking with CEO Nick Gillitt from the Osmolality Lab. I appreciate your time today, Nick. Thanks so much for the important information.
Thank you, Tonia. I appreciate the time too.
You've been listening to Food Talk for Health with Tonia King. Thanks for joining us. Eat well to be well.